Picture this. A respected police captain with 20 years of flawless service walks into an upscale shopping center to buy her daughter a simple birthday gift. 30 minutes later, she's being dragged out in handcuffs, accused of theft, while hundreds of shoppers record her humiliation on their phones. But here's what nobody knew in that moment, including the smug officer who arrested her. She outranked every single cop in that building. And what happened next would expose a corruption scandal so deep, so twisted, that it would bring down an entire network of dirty cops, crooked judges, and greedy corporations who had been systematically targeting innocent people for years. This isn't just a story about racial profiling. This is about something far more sinister. A criminal enterprise operating right under our noses, using our justice system as their personal ATM machine. And it took one woman's courage to bring it all crashing down. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you how it really started. Saturday afternoon at Riverside Shopping Plaza. The kind of place where a latte costs $8 and the security guards wear suits instead of uniforms. Captain Sarah Williams, 20 years on the force, spotless record, respected by everyone who knew her, parked her sedan in the visitor lot and checked her watch. 2 hours. That's all she needed. Buy Emma's birthday present, maybe grab lunch and head home to wrap gifts before the party tomorrow. Simple, right? Wrong. Sarah had been to this mall dozens of times before. She knew the layout, knew which stores carried what Emma liked. But as she walked through those gleaming glass doors, she had no idea that she was walking into a trap that had been set for hundreds of people just like her. The mall was busy but not crowded. Families with strollers, teenagers hanging out by the food court, elderly couples window shopping. Normal Saturday stuff. Sarah felt herself relax for the first time in weeks. Between budget meetings and personnel reviews, she'd barely had time to breathe lately. This felt like a mini vacation. She headed straight for Elegant Expressions, a jewelry boutique that specialized in custom pieces. Emma had been dropping hints about a particular bracelet she'd seen there. Silver chain with tiny charm letters that spelled out dreams. The kind of gift that costs more than it should but makes a 16-year-old girl feel like a princess. That's when she noticed them. 2 security guards. Tall guy with a radio. Shorter one who kept glancing around nervously. They were following her. Not obviously following her. But Sarah had spent 2 decades learning to spot surveillance. They thought they were being subtle. They weren't. The tall guard, name tag said Mitchell, spoke into his radio while staring directly at her. No attempt to hide it. No professionalism. Just blatant, aggressive monitoring. African-American female, navy blue jacket, brown purse. Mitchell's voice carried across the corridor. Maintaining visual contact. Sarah's jaw tightened. 20 years as a cop, and she still had to deal with this garbage. Still had to be followed around stores like she was some kind of criminal. The familiar burn of anger started in her chest. But she pushed it down. She was off duty, shopping for her daughter. She wouldn't let these idiots ruin her day. But as she stepped into Elegant Expressions, Sarah had no way of knowing that this wasn't random profiling. This was part of something much bigger, much more dangerous. The boutique smelled like vanilla and expensive perfume. Soft jazz played overhead, and the lighting was designed to make everything sparkle. Behind the counter stood a middle-aged white woman in a crisp blazer, Patricia, according to her name tag. The moment Sarah walked in, Patricia's entire demeanor changed. The friendly smile vanished. Her shoulders tensed. Her eyes immediately went to Sarah's purse, then to the security guards hovering outside the entrance. "Can I help you?" Patricia's tone was sharp, almost accusatory. "Just browsing, thanks." Sarah kept her voice pleasant, professional. She'd learned long ago that getting angry only made things worse. She moved toward the display case containing Emma's bracelet. There it was, silver chain catching the light, tiny letter charms spelling out dreams in delicate script. Perfect. Emma would love it. Through the store's glass front, Sarah could see Mitchell and his partner. They'd positioned themselves where they could watch her every move. Other shoppers walked by without a second glance, but Sarah felt like she was under a microscope. "Those items are all secured," Patricia announced loudly, appearing at Sarah's elbow. "They can only be handled by staff members." I understand. Sarah kept her eyes on the bracelet. When I'm ready to see something, I'll let you know. But Patricia didn't move away. Instead, she stepped closer, her gaze darting between Sarah and her purse like she expected Sarah to grab something and run. The leather handbag, a birthday gift to herself last year, bought with money she'd saved for 3 months, suddenly felt like it was burning against her side. Patricia was studying it like it contained stolen goods. Actually, Sarah said, straightening up, I'd like to see that silver bracelet, the one with the letter charms. Patricia hesitated. Her hands were actually shaking as she reached for her keys, as if she expected Sarah to attack her or something. The woman's anxiety was palpable, radiating off her in waves. The bracelet was beautiful, delicate craftsmanship, exactly the kind of thing Emma would treasure. Sarah could already picture her daughter's face lighting up when she opened the box. I'll take it, Sarah said, reaching for her credit card. I need to see inside your purse. The words hit Sarah like a slap. The boutique went quiet. Even the jazz seemed to fade away. Other customers turned to stare. Excuse me? Sarah's voice was low, controlled. A piece of jewelry is missing from this case. Patricia's voice grew louder, more confident. Mitchell and his partner had entered the store now, their presence filling the small space. I saw you slip something into your bag. Sarah felt heat rising up her neck. Her hands began to shake, not from fear, but from pure, concentrated fury. That's absolutely false, she said. I haven't touched anything except the bracelet you just showed me. Ma'am, please cooperate. Mitchell stepped forward, his hand resting on his radio. Empty your bag on the counter. This was the moment that would change everything. Sarah could feel the weight of 20 years of service, 20 years of fighting for justice, 20 years of trying to prove that the system could work. She drew herself up to her full height, feeling the familiar authority settle over her shoulders like a cloak. I will not, she said firmly. I haven't stolen anything, and you have no right to search my personal property without probable cause. Mitchell's partner Rodriguez, according to his name tag, shifted nervously. He looked uncomfortable, like he knew this was going too far. But Mitchell pressed on. Either show us what's in the bag, or we call the police. This is harassment, Sarah stated clearly. You've been following me since I entered this mall. You're targeting me because I'm black, and I will not submit to this humiliation. Mitchell moved closer, using his size to intimidate her. Last chance. Open the bag, or things get complicated. Sarah stood her ground. I'm not opening anything. You have no right, no probable cause, and no evidence. Back off. The standoff stretched for what felt like eternity. Other shoppers had gathered at the entrance, phones raised. Sarah could see the red dots of recording indicators. At least there would be witnesses to whatever happened next. That's it. Mitchell grabbed his radio. Security to elegant expressions. Need police backup. Subject refusing to comply. Sarah didn't move. She'd face down armed suspects and corrupt politicians. She wouldn't be intimidated by mall security and a prejudiced store manager. But as they waited for backup to arrive, Sarah had no idea that this was exactly what someone wanted. That her arrest had been planned before she even walked into the store. That she was about to become the target of the most corrupt cop in the city. A man who had built his entire career on destroying people who looked just like her. The tension in the boutique was suffocating. Sarah stood perfectly still, her purse clutched at her side, while Mitchell and Rodriguez flanked her like she was some kind of dangerous criminal. Other shoppers pressed against the storefront, phones recording everything. Patricia, the store manager, looked less certain now that things were escalating. She kept glancing between Sarah and the gathering crowd, as if realizing that this might not go the way she'd planned. Why don't we review your security cameras? Sarah suggested, her voice carrying clearly through the small space. They'll show I haven't taken anything. Patricia's confidence wavered. The cameras are right there. Sarah pointed to the obvious black dome in the corner. And there. So let's watch the footage together. Mitchell didn't wait for Patricia's response. He grabbed Sarah's right arm, his fingers digging into her skin hard enough to leave bruises. Rodriguez took her left arm, but his grip was gentler, uncertain. "You've been warned," Mitchell growled. "Now you're interfering with security operations." Sarah's police training kicked in. She could have broken their holds in seconds, could have put both men on the ground before they knew what hit them. But that would only make things worse. Instead, she kept her voice steady and loud enough for the recording phones to pick up. "I am calmly requesting to view security footage that would prove my innocence. That's not interference. That's a reasonable solution." The boutique entrance darkened as a new figure pushed through the crowd of onlookers. Sarah's blood ran cold when she saw him. Officer Tony Vasquez. She knew Vasquez by reputation. Every captain in the city did. Complaints about him crossed her desk regularly. Excessive force, aggressive arrests, targeting minorities. Somehow he'd avoided serious consequences, protected by connections and a system that looked the other way. "What do we have here?" Vasquez swaggered into the boutique, his badge catching the light. His hand rested casually on his weapon, a deliberate intimidation tactic. Patricia rushed to explain. "She won't let us check her bag for stolen merchandise. Another one causing trouble." Vasquez cut her off, focusing his hostile gaze on Sarah. "Always the same story, isn't it, officer?" Sarah began, maintaining her professional tone. "This is a misunderstanding that could be easily resolved by..." Without warning, Vasquez grabbed her shoulder and slammed her against the boutique's glass wall. The impact rattled the display cases. Several shoppers gasped. The glass was cold against her cheek as Vasquez pressed her harder against it. "Don't tell me how to do my job," he snarled in her ear. "Hands behind your back. Now." "This is excessive force," Sarah declared loudly, fighting to keep her voice controlled despite the rage and humiliation burning in her chest. "I have rights, and you are violating them." "Rights?" Vasquez laughed, yanking her arms back roughly. "You've got the right to shut up while I add resisting arrest to your charges." The handcuffs clicked shut, unnecessarily tight. Around them, the crowd had grown larger. Phones were everywhere, recording every second of her humiliation. Some people whispered in disgust. Others called out that this wasn't right. But no one intervened. Vasquez spun her around and started marching her toward the mall corridor. Each step was a study in controlled fury for Sarah. She'd spent her career fighting against exactly this kind of abuse of power. Now she was experiencing it firsthand. The mall's main corridor had come to a standstill. Shoppers pressed against storefronts, phones raised high to capture the spectacle of a well-dressed black woman being paraded out in handcuffs. Sarah held her head high, even as her shoulders screamed from the awkward angle of her arms. "You're making a scene for nothing," Vasquez announced loudly, playing to his audience. "Should have just cooperated." They reached the mall's side exit where Vasquez's patrol car waited. The afternoon sun was harsh after the mall's filtered light. Sarah had to blink several times to adjust her vision. This was it, the moment of truth. "Before this goes any further," she said clearly, turning to face the crowd of onlookers. "I think you should know something, Officer Vasquez. Save it for booking," he snapped, reaching for the car door. "I'm Captain Sarah Williams, Metro Police Department." Her voice carried across the parking lot. "My badge is in my jacket pocket, which you would have known if you'd bothered to ask for identification before assaulting me." The crowd's murmuring grew louder. Several people moved closer, phones still recording. Vasquez's face flickered with uncertainty before hardening into a sneer. "Sure you are," he scoffed, but there was a new edge of nervousness in his voice. "And I'm the chief of police." "Check my pocket," Sarah insisted. "Left side." Vasquez hesitated, then roughly patted her jacket. His hand froze as it encountered the familiar shape of a police badge. Slowly, he withdrew it, the gold shield catching the sunlight. For a moment, nobody moved. The parking lot was silent except for the distant hum of traffic. "This is fake," Vasquez declared, but his voice had lost its authority. "Another charge. Impersonating an officer." The crowd's reaction was immediate. She's a police captain, someone called out. He arrested a captain for shopping, another voice added. The phones kept recording, documenting every second of Vasquez's increasingly obvious discomfort. I suggest you remove these handcuffs, Sarah said quietly, before you dig yourself any deeper. But Vasquez was trapped now. Admitting his mistake would mean admitting he'd assaulted a superior officer. So instead of backing down, he doubled down. This badge could be fake, he insisted, but his hands were shaking. I'm taking you in for verification. For what? Sarah challenged. Shopping while black? Is that still your standard procedure, Officer Vasquez? More phones appeared in the crowd. Someone was live streaming. The story was already spreading beyond this parking lot, beyond this city. And Vasquez was too stubborn or too stupid to realize how badly he'd miscalculated. Instead of releasing her, he grabbed Sarah's arm again and tried to force her into the patrol car. You're just making it worse for yourself, he growled. Fake badge, resisting arrest, interfering with an officer. The crowd's anger was building like pressure in a volcano. Their voices rose in unified protest. Let her go, someone shouted from the back. Others took up the call, and soon dozens of people were chanting. Sarah stood her ground, even in handcuffs. Every second of this is being recorded, Officer Vasquez. Every abuse of power, every violation of protocol. Are you sure you want to continue? But Vasquez was too far gone to stop now. Too invested in his lie to admit the truth. He was about to make the biggest mistake of his career. And somewhere in the crowd, someone was already dialing the number for internal affairs. What happened next changed everything. The video of Captain Sarah Williams being arrested went viral within hours. Not thousands of views, millions. The hashtag Justice for Captain Williams started trending worldwide. News stations picked up the story. Civil rights organizations issued statements. But here's what nobody expected, including Sarah herself. This wasn't just about one bad cop and one racist store manager. This was about to blow the lid off the most sophisticated criminal operation anyone had ever seen. A scheme so twisted, so profitable, that it had infected the entire justice system like a cancer. And Sarah Williams was about to become the most dangerous woman in the city. 3 days after her arrest, Sarah sat in her home office, staring at a stack of case files that made her sick to her stomach. She'd been suspended pending investigation. Standard procedure, they said. But suspension meant she had time. Time to dig. Time to ask questions. Time to discover the truth. Her phone buzzed constantly. Reporters wanting interviews. Activists offering support. Death threats from anonymous numbers. She ignored them all, because what she'd found in these files was so much worse than simple racial profiling. The numbers didn't lie. In the past 18 months, arrests at Riverside Shopping Plaza had increased by 300%. Almost all of the arrestees were black or Hispanic. Almost all were charged with resisting arrest or assaulting an officer. And almost all accepted plea deals rather than fighting the charges in court. But here's the kicker. Every single plea deal included mandatory probation through a private company called Summit Supervision Services, a company owned by the same family that owned Riverside Shopping Plaza. Sarah's hands trembled as she connected the dots. It was a pipeline. Security guards targeted minority shoppers. Police made arrests on false charges. Scared defendants accepted plea deals to avoid trial. Then they got trapped in a cycle of probation fees that could last for years. The Riverside family wasn't just allowing racial profiling. They were profiting from it. Her doorbell rang, interrupting her research. Sarah checked the security camera and saw a young Latina woman with a press badge and a determined expression. Captain Williams? I'm Sofia Reyes from the Metro Herald. I know you're not giving interviews, but I think we can help each other. Against her better judgment, Sarah opened the door. Sofia was maybe 25, with sharp eyes and a notebook covered in ink stains. She radiated the kind of intensity that came from chasing a big story. I've been investigating Officer Vasquez for 6 months, Sofia said, settling into Sarah's living room chair. But every time I get close to something, sources disappear. Records vanish. People stopped talking. What kind of something? Sarah asked. Sophia opened her laptop. Money trails, shell companies, suspicious connections between police arrests and private probation firms. But I needed someone on the inside to help me understand the patterns. She turned the screen toward Sarah. Banking records, tax documents, corporate filings, all pointing to the same conclusion Sarah had reached. Summit Supervision Services has processed over 4,000 cases in the past 2 years, Sophia explained. All from arrests in the Riverside Shopping Plaza area. The average person pays $1,500 in fees over their probation period. Sarah did the math in her head. $6 million. Flowing from mostly minority defendants into the pockets of the same family that owned the mall where they were arrested. How did you get these records? Sarah asked. I have a source inside the probation company. Someone who's been documenting everything, waiting for the right moment to come forward. Sophia leaned forward. Your arrest changed everything, Captain. People are paying attention now. My source is ready to talk. They arranged to meet the source that evening at a coffee shop downtown. Sarah arrived early, choosing a corner table with clear views of all entrances. Old habits. The source turned out to be a soft-spoken accountant named Marcus Chen. Mid-30s, nervous energy, the kind of person who noticed details that others missed. I started working for Summit 6 months ago, Marcus explained, his voice barely above a whisper. At first, I thought the high case numbers were just good business. Then I started noticing patterns. He spread documents across the table. Look at the timing. Every quarter, right before the Riverside Corporation reports earnings to shareholders, arrest numbers spike. More arrests mean more people on probation. More people on probation means more fees collected. Sarah studied the charts. The correlation was undeniable. But it gets worse, Marcus continued. The probation violations are rigged too. People get cited for missing appointments they were never told about, for failing drug tests on substances they never used. Anything to extend their probation and keep the money flowing. Sophia was taking rapid notes. Do you have proof of the false violations? Marcus nodded, pulling out a thumb drive. Video recordings of appointment schedules being changed after the fact. Lab reports being altered. Everything. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. How many people are we talking about? For 1,000 cases over 2 years. But those are just the ones who got caught in the system. For every arrest that leads to a conviction, there are probably 5 people who were harassed but never charged. They succeed in scaring most people away. The scope of it was staggering. Thousands of innocent people terrorized. Hundreds trapped in a rigged probation system. Families destroyed. Lives ruined. All for profit. There's something else, Marcus said, glancing around nervously. The operation has protection at the highest levels. Judge Martinez signs off on 90% of the plea deals. Councilman Torres helped push through the contract with Summit. Even some cops in internal affairs are involved. Sarah's blood ran cold. No wonder complaints against Vasquez had been buried. The corruption went all the way to the top. Sophia closed her notebook. We need to be very careful about who we trust. If they're willing to arrest a police captain in broad daylight, they won't hesitate to silence witnesses. As if summoned by her words, Sarah's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Stop digging, Captain. You don't know what you're stepping into. She showed the message to Sophia and Marcus. Both went pale. Maybe we should take this to the FBI, Marcus suggested. No, Sarah said firmly. Not yet. We need ironclad evidence first. Something they can't deny or bury. But as they left the coffee shop, Sarah noticed a familiar sedan following them. Dark windows, police plates. Someone was watching. The next morning, Sarah woke to find her car vandalized. Red spray paint across the windshield and doors. Traitor. She documented everything with photos, but she wasn't surprised. She was getting close to something big, and they were trying to scare her off. It wasn't working. That afternoon, Sarah met with Detective Lisa Park, one of the few cops she trusted completely. They'd worked dozens of cases together over the years. If anyone could help her navigate this minefield, it was Lisa. "I've been hearing rumors," Lisa said over coffee at their usual diner. "Word is that you're investigating some of our own people." "More than rumors," Sarah replied, sliding a folder across the table. "Look at these arrest patterns. Tell me what you see." Lisa studied the documents, her expression growing darker with each page. "This is systematic," she finally said. "It's not just Vasquez. There are at least 6 officers involved in this scheme. Can you help me build a case?" Lisa was quiet for a long moment. "Sarah, I've seen what happens to cops who cross the wrong people. Transfer to desk duty if they're lucky. Forced retirement if they're not. So we just let it continue? Let them keep destroying innocent lives?" "No," Lisa said firmly. "But we do this smart. We document everything. We build an airtight case. And we make sure we have protection when we move." They spent the next 2 hours going through evidence, identifying patterns, building timelines. By the time they finished, they had a clear picture of how the scheme worked. Step 1. Mall security profiles minority shoppers. Step 2. Police make arrests on false charges. Step 3. Defendants accept plea deals to avoid trial. Step 4. Private probation company extracts fees for years. Rinse and repeat. Thousands of times. "We need someone inside the mall management," Lisa said. "Someone who can confirm that the targeting is intentional." Sarah's phone rang. Sophia Reyes. "Captain, we need to meet. Now. My source inside the mall just called. They're planning something big." An hour later, they sat in Sarah's car in an empty parking garage. Sophia's contact was a security supervisor named David Kim, who'd been documenting the discrimination for months. "They know you're investigating," David said urgently. "There was a meeting this morning. Mall executives, police supervisors, people from the probation company. They're planning to frame you for something serious." Sarah's heart pounded. "Frame me for what?" "I don't know yet, but they're desperate. Your arrest exposed too much. Now they need to discredit you completely." Sophia gripped Sarah's arm. "We need to go public now, before they can move against you." "With what evidence?" Sarah asked. "We have documents, but no smoking gun. Nothing that directly connects the mall ownership to the police corruption." David reached into his jacket. "Actually, we might have that smoking gun." He handed Sarah a thumb drive. "Security footage from the day you were arrested. But not the edited version they released to the media. The real footage." Sarah plugged the drive into her laptop. The video played, showing her entering the mall, being followed by security, entering the boutique. But this footage started 10 minutes earlier than any version she'd seen. And it showed something incredible. Officer Vasquez was already at the mall before Sarah arrived. The video showed him talking to Patricia, the boutique manager, before Sarah even entered the store. They were planning her arrest in advance. "This proves conspiracy," Sarah breathed. "They didn't arrest me because I was shoplifting. They arrested me because I was black and they needed to meet their quota." Sophia was already pulling out her phone. "I'm calling my editor. This story goes live tonight." But as they prepared to expose the truth, none of them realized that someone was listening. Someone who would do anything to keep their criminal empire from crashing down. The war was just beginning. The night before Sophia's story was set to publish, she was attacked walking to her car after work. 2 men jumped her in the parking garage. Professional job. They knew exactly how to hurt her without killing her. Broken ribs, concussion, but alive. And that wasn't an accident. They wanted her alive to send a message. The message was clear. Back off or next time you won't be so lucky. But they made one crucial mistake. Sophia was a digital native. Her phone automatically uploaded everything to the cloud, including a recording she'd made during her attack. "Tell your friend the captain to mind her own business," one of the attackers had said. "She's in over her head." Sarah rushed to the hospital as soon as she got the call. Sophia looked terrible, bruises covering half her face, arm in a cast. But her eyes still burned with determination. "Did you get a look at them?" Sarah asked. Sophia nodded weakly. "Better than that. When they grabbed me, I saw something under their jackets. Police badges. Sarah's blood turned to ice. You're sure? Metro PD issue. Same as yours. The confirmation hit Sarah like a physical blow. Her own colleagues had done this. People she worked with every day. People she'd trusted. The story still goes live tonight, Sophia said firmly. They think beating up a reporter will scare us? They just proved how desperate they are. That evening, Sarah sat in her living room watching the news break across every channel. Sophia's article was devastating. A comprehensive exposé of the corruption scheme, complete with documents, recordings, and video evidence. But the most powerful moment came when they played the unedited security footage. Vasquez arriving at the mall before Sarah. His conversation with the boutique manager. The premeditated nature of her arrest. The public reaction was explosive. #corruption at Riverside started trending immediately. The video was shared millions of times. Protest organizers called for demonstrations. Civil rights lawyers offered their services for free. Sarah's phone rang. Unknown number. You've made a serious mistake, Captain. Who is this? Someone who's been very good to you over the years. Someone who's about to become your worst nightmare. The line went dead. 30 minutes later, her doorbell rang. Sarah checked the security camera and saw 2 internal affairs investigators on her porch. Captain Williams, you need to come with us. Am I under arrest? Not yet, but there are some serious allegations that need to be addressed. They drove to headquarters in silence. Sarah's mind raced through possibilities. What could they have fabricated? What evidence could they have planted? The IA interview room was sterile and cold. Investigators Johnson and Martinez sat across from her, a thick file between them. Captain Williams, Johnson began. We have evidence that you've been taking bribes from criminal organizations for information about ongoing investigations. Sarah's mouth fell open. That's absolutely false. Martinez slid photos across the table. These were taken outside the Riverside shopping plaza 3 weeks ago. You meeting with known criminal associate David Kim. The photos showed Sarah's meeting with the security supervisor. But they'd cropped out Sophia and David's uniform, making it look like a clandestine rendezvous. David Kim is a security supervisor at the mall, Sarah explained. He's providing information about the corruption scheme. That's not what our intelligence suggests, Johnson replied. According to our sources, Kim is connected to several criminal enterprises in the area. It was masterfully done. They'd twisted her investigation into evidence of corruption, turned her sources into criminal contacts. We also have financial records, Martinez continued, showing unusual deposits into your bank account over the past 6 months. Another stack of papers. Bank statements showing several large deposits, money Sarah had never seen before. Those deposits are fake, Sarah said. Check the source accounts. This is all fabricated. We did check, Johnson replied. The money came from offshore accounts controlled by criminal organizations. Sarah realized how deep this went. They'd had months to prepare this frame job. Planted evidence, fabricated records, corrupted witnesses. The same system she'd served for 20 years was now being used to destroy her. I want a lawyer, she said. That's your right. But Captain, the evidence is overwhelming. If you cooperate with us, tell us about your criminal contacts, we might be able to work something out. Sarah stood up. I want a lawyer. Now. They released her pending further investigation, but the damage was done. By morning, the fake corruption allegations were front-page news. The same media that had celebrated her exposure of police misconduct now questioned whether she was just another dirty cop. The narrative had been flipped perfectly. Sarah Williams wasn't a hero fighting corruption. She was a corrupt cop trying to cover her tracks by making false accusations. But they'd underestimated one thing: the power of the truth. Sophia Reyes might have been beaten, but she wasn't broken. Working from her hospital bed, she began investigating the investigators. Who were Johnson and Martinez? Where had their evidence come from? Who was pulling their strings? Meanwhile, Detective Lisa Park quietly began her own investigation. Sarah trusted Lisa completely, and Lisa believed in Sarah's innocence. But she also knew they needed to be smart about proving it. The fake bank records, Lisa explained during a secret meeting in Sarah's kitchen. They're good, but not perfect. I ran some analysis. The deposits all happened on days when the bank's main servers were down for maintenance. Convenient timing. Convenient if you needed to hack the system, Sarah realized. Exactly. And the amounts match exactly with quarterly bonuses paid out by Summit Supervision Services. Someone with access to both the bank systems and the probation company's records created these fake transactions. Sarah felt the first spark of hope she'd had in days. Can you prove it? I'm working on it. But Sarah, there's something else. Johnson and Martinez? They're both receiving consulting fees from a company called Metro Security Solutions. Never heard of it. That's because it's a shell company. Guess who the real owner is? Sarah's heart sank. Riverside Corporation. The same family that owns the mall, the probation company, and apparently half the city council. The pieces were falling into place. This wasn't just about a few dirty cops. This was about a family that had bought and paid for an entire system of justice. When Sarah threatened their operation, they activated every asset they owned to destroy her. But Lisa had more surprises. I've been tracking other officers involved in the scheme, she continued. Vasquez isn't the only one. There are at least 8 cops on their payroll. But here's the interesting part. Most of them don't even know they're part of something bigger. What do you mean? They think they're just following orders from supervisors. Make more arrests at the mall. Process paperwork faster. Small compromises that add up to something huge. Sarah understood. It was the perfect criminal organization. Most of the participants didn't even realize they were criminals. Over the next week, working in secret, Sarah and Lisa built a comprehensive case against the real corruption network. They documented the money flows, identified the key players, and gathered enough evidence to bring down the entire operation. But they needed a way to present it that couldn't be suppressed or discredited. That's when Sarah had an idea. The city council meeting next Thursday, she told Lisa. It's televised, open to the public. If I can get to that podium, they can't stop me from speaking. They'll try to arrest you the moment you show up. Not if we do this right. Not if we have backup. Sarah reached out to community leaders, civil rights organizations, and clean cops she trusted. By Thursday evening, hundreds of supporters had gathered outside City Hall. But inside the council chambers, the forces of corruption were waiting too. This would be the final battle. Truth versus lies. Justice versus profit. One woman's courage against an entire corrupt system. The outcome would determine not just Sarah's fate, but the fate of thousands of innocent people trapped in a rigged game. As Sarah walked up the steps of City Hall, her hands trembling with a mixture of fear and determination, she knew there was no turning back. Tonight, the truth would finally come out. The city council chambers had never seen anything like it. Every seat was packed. Standing room only. The overflow crowd spilled into the hallways and out onto the front steps. News crews from every major network. Social media influencers with millions of followers. Civil rights leaders who'd flown in from across the country. This wasn't just a local council meeting anymore. This was a reckoning. Sarah Williams sat in the back, baseball cap pulled low, watching the circus unfold. She'd arrived early, blending into the crowd before security could identify her. Her heart hammered against her ribs as she clutched the manila folder containing everything. Financial records, witness statements, video evidence. 20 years of her life had led to this moment. Near the front, she spotted familiar faces that made her stomach twist. Officer Vasquez, looking uncomfortable in his dress uniform. Charles Riverside, the mall owner, whispering urgently into his phone. Judge Martinez, who'd rubber-stamped hundreds of fake plea deals. City Councilman Torres, who'd approved the probation contracts. All the key players in the corruption network, sitting together like they owned the place. Which Sarah realized they basically did. Mayor Thompson called the meeting to order, his voice shaky. He kept mopping sweat from his forehead despite the air conditioning. We'll now open the floor for public comments. Each speaker has 3 minutes. Sarah watched the clock on the wall. 7:47 p.m. In 13 minutes, Sophia's second article would go live. The one revealing the fake internal affairs investigation and the planted evidence. Perfect timing. One by one, citizens approached the podium. A teacher talking about school funding. A small business owner complaining about parking meters. Normal city business, while the most corrupt officials in the city's history sat just 20 feet away. Then Sarah's phone buzzed. Text from Lisa Park. State investigators are en route. Article just dropped. You're clear to go. Sarah stood up, removing her baseball cap. Heads turned throughout the chamber. Whispers spread like wildfire. Phone cameras swiveled in her direction. Next speaker, Mayor Thompson called nervously. Sarah walked to the podium, her footsteps echoing in the suddenly quiet chamber. She placed her folder on the lectern and looked out at the sea of faces. Supporters, enemies, and cameras recording everything. My name is Captain Sarah Williams, Metro Police Department. Her voice carried clear and strong through the microphone. In the front row, Vasquez shifted uncomfortably. Riverside had his phone pressed to his ear, speaking in frantic whispers. 3 weeks ago, I was falsely arrested while shopping at Riverside Plaza. But this isn't just about one incident of racial profiling. This is about a systematic criminal enterprise that has infected our entire justice system. She opened her folder, spreading documents across the podium. I have here internal communications between mall executives and police officers, discussing arrest quotas and target demographics. I have financial records showing payments from Riverside Corporation to Summit Supervision Services, a private probation company that profits from false arrests. The crowd's murmurs grew louder. Camera flashes lit up the room like lightning. I have banking records showing bribes paid to city officials. Sarah's voice grew stronger with each revelation. I have video evidence of police officers coordinating with mall security to target innocent shoppers based on their race. Mayor Thompson tried to interrupt. Captain Williams, this forum is for community concerns, not unsubstantiated accusations. These accusations are fully documented. Sarah cut him off, her voice rising, including evidence that internal affairs investigators Johnson and Martinez fabricated corruption charges against me to silence my investigation. She turned to face Vasquez directly. The same officer Vasquez who falsely arrested me has made over 200 similar arrests in the past 2 years, all targeting minorities, all feeding into the same probation system. Vasquez's face had turned red. He half rose from his seat, but Riverside grabbed his arm, whispering urgently. When I began investigating this scheme, Sarah continued, my source was attacked by police officers. When journalist Sophia Reyes tried to expose the truth, she was beaten in a parking garage. But they made one crucial mistake. They left evidence. The doors at the back of the chamber burst open. State investigators flooded in, led by Attorney General Patricia Walsh. The crowd erupted as the investigators moved with practiced efficiency, heading straight for the front row. Officer Vasquez, one investigator called out, "You're under arrest for conspiracy, civil rights violations, and assault under color of authority." Vasquez tried to run, but there was nowhere to go. The chamber was packed. As handcuffs clicked around his wrists, the crowd broke into applause. Charles Riverside, another investigator announced, "You're under arrest for racketeering, money laundering, and conspiracy to deprive citizens of their civil rights." The mall owner's phone clattered to the floor as investigators surrounded him. His face had gone completely white, but Sarah wasn't finished. "This corruption network has destroyed hundreds of lives," she declared from the podium, her voice carrying over the chaos. "Innocent people pressured into false guilty pleas. Families bankrupted by fraudulent probation fees. All to line the pockets of these criminals." Judge Martinez tried to slip out through a side door, but state investigators were waiting. Mayor Thompson sat frozen in his chair, watching his political career crumble in real time. "I have statements from 47 victims," Sarah continued. "People who were targeted, arrested on false charges, and trapped in a system designed to exploit them. Tonight, their voices are finally being heard. The chamber erupted in cheers. People jumped to their feet, phones recording every moment. A chant started in the back, "Justice! Justice!" spreading until it filled the room. Sarah stood at the podium, surrounded by the chaos she'd unleashed, watching as the corrupt network she'd fought so hard to expose finally collapsed. State investigators were making arrests throughout the chamber. Camera crews captured every moment for the evening news. Her phone buzzed with a text from Sophia. "Watching from the hospital. You did it." But the most meaningful moment came when a young black woman approached the podium, tears streaming down her face. "Captain Williams," she said, her voice choked with emotion. "My brother was one of Vasquez's victims, 2 years on fake probation charges. We never thought anyone would believe us." Sarah stepped down from the podium and hugged the woman, feeling the weight of 20 years of service, 20 years of fighting for justice, finally validated. "Your brother's case will be reviewed," Sarah promised. "All the cases will be reviewed." 3 months later, Sarah stood in the same spot where she'd been arrested, but everything was different now. The Riverside Shopping Plaza had new owners, new management, new security policies. The probation company had been shut down. 47 criminal cases had been overturned. Officer Vasquez was serving 15 years in federal prison. Charles Riverside got 25. Judge Martinez had been disbarred and faced his own criminal charges. But the most satisfying part was watching the mall's new policies in action. Security guards who actually helped shoppers instead of harassing them. Diverse staff who reflected the community they served. Training programs on racial bias and civil rights. Auntie Sarah, her niece Emma came running up, the silver bracelet from their interrupted shopping trip sparkling on her wrist. "Look what I made at school." Emma held up a poster, a drawing of Sarah in her police uniform with the words, "My hero," written in glitter. Sarah hugged her niece tightly, thinking about all the other children who would grow up in a fairer world because of what had happened here. "You know what the best part is?" Emma asked, looking up at her aunt with bright eyes. "What's that, baby?" "Now when people see a police officer, they'll think of you. Someone who fights for what's right." Sarah looked around the bustling mall, families shopping peacefully, security guards helping elderly customers, teenagers hanging out without being followed or harassed. It looked like what America was supposed to be, what it could be when good people refused to stay silent. Her phone buzzed with a text from Sophia, who was back at work and already investigating corruption in another city. "Ready for the next fight?" Sarah smiled, typing back, "Always, because that's what heroes do. They don't fight once and give up. They keep fighting case by case, injustice by injustice, until the system actually serves the people it's supposed to protect." 3 weeks ago, Sarah Williams had walked into a mall to buy her niece a birthday present. She'd walked out in handcuffs, humiliated and angry. But sometimes the worst thing that happens to you becomes the best thing you ever did for others. Sometimes one person's courage to stand up really can change everything. And sometimes justice doesn't just win, it transforms the world around it. The documentary about Sarah's case won 3 Emmy Awards. Her story became required reading in police academies across the country. The Williams Protocol became the national standard for investigating racial profiling complaints. But if you ask Sarah what she was most proud of, she'd point to a letter on her office wall. It was from Marcus Chen, the accountant who'd helped expose the corruption scheme. "Captain Williams, because of your courage, my daughter will grow up in a world where shopping while black isn't a crime, where being different isn't dangerous, where one person standing up for what's right can defeat an entire system of wrong. Thank you for showing us that heroes aren't just in the movies. Sometimes they're shopping for birthday presents, just like the rest of us. That's the real victory, not the arrests or the headlines or the awards. It's knowing that somewhere out there, a little girl can walk into any store with her head held high, knowing that if someone tries to target her for the color of her skin, there are people who will fight for her. People like Captain Sarah Williams. People who refuse to back down. People who understand that justice isn't just about what's legal. It's about what's right. And in a world that sometimes feels like it's falling apart, that's everything. The end. What do you think? Should every police officer be required to go through the same training that resulted from Sarah's case? Should private probation companies be banned entirely? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single one. And if this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Because real change happens when real people decide to stand up for what's right. Subscribe for more stories that matter. See you in the next one.